Today I'm going to talk about why you would want to put your boat into a charter fleet. What boat should I buy if I'm looking to buy a boat to put in a charter fleet? Do I still get to use my boat? Can I charter the boat myself? How do I pick a charter company that's going to represent me well? Should I promote the boat myself? Insurance, slips, and reporting. And how do I keep my boat in good condition?
Good morning, everyone. This is Tom Alston of Aero Marine Tax Professionals. I have Andy online. He's going to do an update on his original wonderful webinar on how to make your boat a business. He's going to pick us all up with whatever's changed in the last year. And if nothing's changed, he's just going to repeat it again so that times over equals certainty and that you'll get all your questions answered. Speaking of questions answered, if you have any questions, make sure that you type them in and get them sent to us. And then I'll interrupt Andy and we'll ask your questions right away. Don't try to wait till the end. As soon as you have a question, type it in and get it sent to us and we'll get it taken care of. The very first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to play a little video for you. Welcome to another Aero Marine free webinar.
That's okay.
Let me tell you who we are. We help people who are buying aircraft, vessels, and vehicles to legally avoid the California tax. Just because you're a non-resident of California doesn't mean you're not subject to their assessment. So be smart about all of that. We do these for you because we're trying to give you free information. We do this all the time because you need it, because you've asked for it. And if you've got any subjects that you'd like us to cover that you haven't heard us cover in the past, just send me an email or send an email to Kelsey or call us at 916-691-9192 and we'll get you the information that you asked for.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit today on how to make your boat a business. So I'll say, click here. So I am Andy Kurtz. I am the president and the owner of Seaport Boat Rental and Yacht Charters. I've been in this business for about 30-something years. We have a fleet of 200 boats that we manage, including jet skis, sailboats, kayaks, and yachts up to 70 feet, sailboats up to 58 feet. So we've got quite a fleet. We've helped a lot of people get boats and get into the charter business. So the first question we have, first topic is, why do I want to charter my boat? So if you bought a boat, if you own a boat, or you're thinking about buying a boat, the good news is I can't think of anything that's going to give you more fun, satisfaction, family togetherness. It's a great thing to own a boat. But the downside is that piece of equipment that you have is essentially an ice cube. So as soon as you put that in the water, as soon as you have signed that purchase agreement, your boat is starting to melt. So by putting it into a charter fleet, the idea is to either slow down that melting process or even stave off the melting process and make that less of a problem, less of an expense. And there's a lot of different ways that we do that. One, we're going to provide you income. So when we rent the boat out, you charter the boat, people are paying to use it, you're going to get some money for that. There's great tax incentives for having your boat as a business. We're going to be able to offset some of your expenses. We're going to help in the management of the boat. So again, a boat is a responsibility. It's not something that you just come down and use whenever you want without having some issues to deal with. So we can help you with that. And then there's just various cost savings that you'll have by having a partner in the boat. So let's go to the next one. A little clunky here on the slides. So let's get down skip down to that next one. So why do I want to charter my boat? The first and foremost, the reason you want to charter your boat is income. So you want money coming in instead of only money going out. I got to go back up. Sorry. What's that? Sorry about this. So when people use your boat, when people charter their boat, it's a revenue generating expense, revenue generating situation, and you share a good portion of that. There's also tax advantages that obviously Tom is very well suited to be able to help you. But your boat is now a business, and as a business, all the expenses to that boat now are deductible items. So the insurance, the slip rent, the depreciation, there's lots of different ways that you can offset the expense of owning the boat and having to by having it as a business. One of the big things that people are looking for is the Section 179 deductions. And in that situation, you can write off in the first year a huge percentage of the value of the vessel. But with the tax stuff, the legal stuff, clearly I'll tell you what you can do, but you always want to do that in conjunction with a tax professional because you don't want to make any mistakes on that side. When we are involved in the in boats for charter and in the Southern California market, our goal is to offset expenses. So in our market, it's not typically going to be a situation where you are going to make a ton of money. It's going to be a situation where we can offset your expenses, which can be significant. But in Southern California market for most boats is going to be an offset rather than a complete profitable situation. There are markets, if you want to go to the BVIs, if you want to go some places on the East Coast, there's the charter business is much bigger. But the downside to situations like that is your boat also gets a lot more use. So we're more in a situation where we have somebody that wants to own a boat, wants to be able to enjoy the boat, but they don't want to have the full responsibility and the full expense of having it. The other part that we can offer, or the charter company should offer, are cost savings. So we have a fleet of boats, and we can get all the work done, all the maintenance done. Their retail rate for that. The other part of that is we have years and years of experience in the industry. So when you take your boat to the yard, every couple of years you're going to pull your boat out and get the bottom done. You don't necessarily speak that language. It's a completely different language. But we'll be there with you, hold your hand, and make sure that you don't get raked over the coals. We'll make sure that what is done to your boat is appropriate and not overkill. And along those same lines is that we'll help you manage the boat. So, you say, a lot of people want to get their boats waxed and buffed once a year, twice a year. In those situations, we have all the relationships with the vendors, so we can just call up. We'll make sure that gets done, and you don't have to be involved in all that. And I say we, but most rental companies, most charter companies operate this same way. They'll do as much as you want in terms of the management of the boat and taking care of all the things that come up. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, a little clunky here. So the big question, one of the big questions I get is, how do I choose the right boat? So you want a boat, and you want to make sure that you want to take advantage of the taxes, you want to take advantage of the income, but I want to make sure I get the right boat. And this is kind of a funny thing that I always say. I say it's most important that you get the boat that you want. So start. Do you want a sailboat? Do you want a powerboat? Make sure you get a boat that's going to suit your needs, and then figure out what the charterability is on the backside. Never buy a boat, again, in this market. Don't buy a boat for the strict purpose of chartering it. Boats are, you want to be able to enjoy it. You want to be able to have fun with it. You want to make sure that it'll do what you want to do. So make sure you get the right boat, and then figure out what the earning potential is. You want to be sure that you are familiar with the local opportunities. So if you have a boat in San Diego, for example, and your goal is to spend the weekend on the boat and do short trips, maybe go to Catalina, which is a 75-mile run from where we are, make sure you buy a boat that has the capability of doing that. A good buddy of mine is a broker. And so he'll start out with, when he's interviewing you about buying a boat, he'll start out with all these questions. What is it that you want to accomplish? Figures out what boat it is that you want. And if the boat that you want and the things that you want to accomplish are not within your price range, then wait to buy that boat. Don't buy a boat, one, to get it because you can, I really want a 60, but all I can afford is a 40. Well, you're not going to necessarily be happy with that 40. So make sure you get the right boat that suits your needs, that does all the things that you want to do. The second part of that is to make sure that you use a broker that comes highly recommended. So the brokers in buying a boat is a huge part of it. If you don't get a guy that's going to represent your interests, then the whole process is, one, not fun, and two, potentially really expensive. If they don't make sure that the boat is surveyed properly, if they don't make sure that we just had another buddy that bought a boat and the title was not perfectly clear. So you want to make sure that you use a broker that is on your side, that you trust, and that will represent you well. And then make sure the last part of that equation would be to find the charter operator and interview the charter operator and say, hey, I'm thinking about a 40-foot Jeanneau sailboat. This is my dream boat. What is the potential from that? So the last part of the equation is us. So this is the boat that I want, and then you look at it and see what it is. If, maybe the difference between a 40 and a 45 will make a lot of difference in the revenue and your expenses. But start with the boat you want, and then go lastly to the charter side of it. The next item that I have, or the question that I was going to answer, is can I charter the boat myself? So today, and we talked about things that are a little bit different now than they were the last time we had this deal, is Airbnb. So Airbnb is huge. I mean, it's all over the place. Half the boats in the marina are trying to do Airbnb. And my feeling on this is, one, it's probably illegal. It's probably a violation of your workage agreement with the marina. It is probably not compliant with Coast Guard regulations. To me, that's a horrible idea. So when you want to put your boat into a charter fleet, use a professional that will represent you well. Make sure that the revenue is commensurate to the amount of use. Again, with the Airbnbs, you're going to get a couple $100 a night, and maybe you can get it out, get it rented a lot of nights, but still, it's only a couple $100 a night for a lot of use. I would rather have a $1,500 rental than $300, $500 rentals. The use of the boat is far less on one rental than it is on the 3 overnights. You also need somebody that is familiar with the local rules and regulations. So each harbor, each port, each marina has specific regulations, and you can sneak aboard. You can kind of do it without making a lot of noise. But all of the harbor masters that I know go on Airbnb, they go on VRBO, they go on Craigslist, and they look for the guys that are trying to charter their boats out of the marina, and they will give them a 30-day notice as soon as they see that. So be upfront about it. You want to get into a business relationship that you are out in the open, that you are clear, and that everything is legit, or else it just causes you a lot of stress. The last thing on the Airbnb is, what I've seen is people are looking for a hotel room. They're looking for a place to stay, and maybe the fun of experience of doing that on a boat, but they're not boaters, and they don't have any boating education. So they don't know how to turn on the lights. They don't know how to use the head. They don't know how to make sure that the shore power is plugged in. All these things, they got hip dryers and all kinds of things that are overloading the system, and it causes you nothing but stress. So if I have one bit of advice out of this is stay away from the Airbnb. Make sure you go with a legitimate charter operator, because it will save you lots of hassle down the line. Okay. As I'm waiting for it to switch here, can I still use my boat? So as I said before, when we're picking the boat, you want to make sure that you're picking the boat that you want. So of course you can still use your boat. That's the whole idea with this. When you want to look at the specific rules that the charter company has, we're pretty liberal about that. We want you to be able to enjoy it. We'll take your boat even when you say you're going to use it a lot, because we want you to be a happy boat owner. And the relationship is super important to me. And if you're enjoying your boat and you're happy about it, happy with it, then it's a lot easier to deal with. So there are some tax implications. There's depending on how you set things up, there are restrictions regarding personal use, but there's ways to deal with that too, and that's again something that a tax professional is going to help you with. There's definitely company rules. So when you're interviewing your charter company, make sure that you get a good understanding of what their rules are. If they say, well, you can only use it 2 weeks out of the year or X number of days a month, that may fit with what you want, but it may not. So make sure you understand that. The other part of that is make sure you understand the backside of your contract. So I had a guy that wanted to buy a boat and wanted to put it in our fleet. When he bought it, he didn't realize that he was under contract with somebody else, that he had bought it at sea, and so he couldn't take that boat. So make sure you read all the contracts, have a lawyer look at your contract, make sure you are very familiar with the rules regarding all aspects of this charter relationship so you know what's going on. Can I use my boat? Obviously, it's revenue impact. So we have people in our fleet that use their boat a lot. They use their boat on holiday weekends. They use their boat on summer weekends. And I'm okay with that. That's part of the agreement that we have. But you have to understand that when you're doing that, then clearly you're going to impact the revenue that you're going to be able to produce from that boat. Okay. So I talk about a charter company. So how do I pick a charter company? Well, it's a business relationship. You're going into a business relationship. You're entrusting somebody to act as your agent, to represent, to make sure your boat is well maintained, make sure your boat is well cared for, and that they're honest and that they're going to do the best for you. So I would get references. Talk to other people in the fleet. If you want to put your boat in their fleet, hey, can I talk to some of the other boat owners and talk to them? Check out their website. Look at their reservation system. Make sure that they're everything that they're doing appears on the face to be legitimate and easy to work with company. I would ask for a pro forma. So before we take any boat in the fleet, I will give the prospective owner a pro forma saying, this is what I expect your boat will do on the revenue side. This is what I expect to do on the expense side. Now, if I really want a boat, I could probably say, well, instead of doing $50,000 a year, it's going to do $100,000 a year, and that's going to help that guy in his mind buy the boat. The brokers love me because I'm getting this guy to buy a boat. But at the end of the day, we're in a business relationship, so you got in a year from now, and when my performance comes up to 50%, it doesn't work. So get the pro forma, stick to it, maybe get on a quarterly basis so you can track it as you go, but make sure you have a good idea what that is. And then discuss the trends in the boating industry, see what they expect, where they see growth areas, so that you can take advantage of that. And then you also want to make sure that you understand the conditions in which your boat will no longer be eligible for charter. So some companies say you have to keep your boat in for X number of years, and you can't keep your boat in for more than this number of years. The very popular in the Caribbean boats, they'll say it's a 5-year contract. At the end of 5 years, you take your boat, you go home, which may work, but it may not work. So you got to make sure you understand that situation so that you're not stuck with this boat 5 years down the line and your revenue potential is gone. Again, the terms of the contract. So we have owners that say they don't want to do any overnight rentals. So maybe you're not comfortable with anybody sleeping on the boat, even on a short trip. Make sure that you have the ability to dictate those terms and what the impact is on revenue by dictating those terms. But you want to make sure that you can kind of set the stage on how you want to use you want your boat to use and who's going to use it and how they qualify their people. Fees and services. I mean, clearly, when you're picking that charter company, you want to understand what they charge, what their fees are, what they include in their fees, and what you're expected to do on the outside. So for us, really, it's pretty much we charge. We can facilitate everything that you need in terms of insurance, in terms of slip, but the owner has all the same expenses as they would when you're buying a boat and not having it in charter. So it's not any more expensive, it's not any less, but you have those expenses. What we do is our fees are for the charter, for all things relating to the charter, and then we give you the balance of that after our percentage. But again, super important that you understand all those, what those terms are, terms and conditions. So another question I get is, should I promote the boat myself? So, I own this boat. I have it in a charter fleet. They have a great website, and they're out there pushing it. I say absolutely. You should be a partner in this deal. You should be an active partner. So if I have 3 40-foot boats in our fleet, I try and make sure that the revenue, we try and differentiate the boats in some way or another, but we try and make sure that the revenue is fairly evenly split. But if you are promoting the boat yourself, if you have your own website, if you have your own group of friends, group of people that are using your boat, then certainly your boat is going to stand out among the other boats in the fleet, and you're going to do better than everybody else. And really, that's what you want to do. You want to stand out. So we have boats where the guys have spent a little bit more money on electronics. They've done different things that make it more of a desirable boat than the other boats in the fleet, and they end up doing a little bit better than the rest. Again, it's definitely in our interest not to have one guy get everything and the other guy not. I need to make sure that everybody's making money at the end of the day, or else the boat goes away. But you can certainly make sure that your boat stands out. The other part of that is it's a business, and you are in the boat business. You're taking advantage of the taxes. You're writing off these things. You should be in the boat business. It's not like you just own this piece of equipment that you've handed off for somebody else to manage. You are in that business. So be an active partner. Okay. So obviously one of the big things right now, so again, we're talking about things that might have changed in the market since the last time we had this, and that would be slips. So 2 things with slips that I would talk about. One of the big trends that I see in the charter industry and in the boating industry itself, in general, is oops, I can't find. No. So one of the big things is the popularity of catamarans, and in general, so catamaran slips are very full. So if you can get involved with the charter company that can help you get a slip, and you can get a slip at the facility that they do business with, that's a huge thing. But you definitely want to keep that in mind when you're buying a boat. You don't want to end up buying a boat, you buy this great new catamaran, and you find that there's no catamaran slips, no place to keep this boat. So that's definitely part of the equation, and definitely that you need to pay attention to. You also want to make sure that when you're doing that interview process of the charter company, that the facilities that they do business with. So most companies are doing business out of a private marina. Make sure that the marinas that they're going to be putting your boat or helping you put your boat is one that you want to be at. if it's way out of the main area, if it's not a nice marina, then it's going to diminish the enjoyment that you're going to have on the boat. So that's super important. The other part on the slips is you want to pay attention to whether or not the slip belongs to you or the slip belongs to the charter company. So in some cases, the charter company will rent X number of slips at a marina, and they're essentially going to sublease that slip to you. So that means if you want to take your boat out of the charter fleet, you got to find another slip. And in some cases, that's okay. But in a lot of cases, it's not easy to find that slip. So you might be beholden on that charter company for that slip. So definitely a consideration. Another question that I get on a regular basis is, how do I keep my boat in good condition? So the first thing to keep in mind in terms of how do I keep my boat in good condition is you have taken this boat from something that is just fun and entertainment from you, and you've turned it into a revenue-generating piece of equipment. So it's going to be your boat now. It is not a baby. So people are going to be on your boat. People are not going to treat your boat the same way that you do. So you have to be okay with that, or else this is not the plan for you. We do a great job of making sure that the boats are maintained. We do our best to erase any evidence of our customers being on the boats. We have strict policies. There's no red wine. There's no smoking. There's no this and that. But from time to time, things happen. And it's our responsibility to make sure that those things that happen, they stain the carpet or whatever. We're going to make sure that we erase those things. But if it's going to upset you tremendously, walking down to your boat and seeing that somebody has spilled red wine on the gel coat or done this and that, probably not a good idea to put your boat in charter service. It should never be something that's that stressful. It is a revenue generating piece of equipment there, and some stuff will happen. Part of that, in terms of minimizing that and keeping your boat in good condition, is picking the right people that are going to manage it. So make sure, again, when you're interviewing them, make sure that you understand whose responsibilities are what. Make sure that you know who's going to take care of what problem. So if we had a guy that came in hot and they scratched the boat on the dock, they did a little road rash, that's our responsibility. It's not our responsibility to write you a check and say, okay, here's $200. You can call Tim Boyle, the fiberglass guy, and get him to fix it. That's our responsibility to not only collect the money or pay it, but to make those problems go away. And I think that is a super important thing. You don't want this to be something where it's creating more work for you. So definitely understand those things. Ask questions. So ask the question, what happens if? What happens when? So that you have a great understanding of what's going to happen under all the different circumstances. And, I recommend asking those questions in writing so that when you're going down the line, you make sure everything stays. It's a great way to keep everybody happy. But you also need to understand all the risks. You have other people operating your boat. Is it possible that they are going to run your boat up on the rocks and they are going to cause significant damage? It's unlikely, but absolutely that's possible. So you have insurance to cover that. But the insurance, you have to understand the risk. There is no free lunch, and in this situation, it's something that can happen. You just want to make sure that you are good with how that's handled when and if something like that happens. So insurance. We talked about why you want to use a charter company. We talked about why you don't necessarily want to do it yourself. Well, insurance is a big thing. So we have an insurance policy that covers you, it covers us, covers liability for when the boat's taken out. It specifically covers the use of the boat for charter, including damage to the boat. So the insurance is a huge part of this. They're the ones that are that are going to mitigate your risk and make sure that if something does happen, that you're not going to be on the hook for it. And that's why a good charter company will have a comprehensive marine policy that has a charter endorsement, that has all the appropriate people insured, and that specifically covers the boat for charter. You want as few restrictions on that policy as possible. You want to make sure that that is a broad, comprehensive policy, and a good charter company will make sure that that's what you get. The second part of that, so you need to have good insurance, but you also make sure that you have good records and of both income and expenses and maintenance records. So a good charter company is going to give you a statement of income and expenses. They're going to give you, going to help you do your maintenance records. Now, in our situation, we have owners that choose to be involved in that, some that choose not to be. But if you want somebody to be maintaining your boat, make sure that they're going to give you all the correct info, so you know what's been done and what needs to be done. Because the best way to keep that boat from melting super fast is to make sure that it's adequately maintained. Also, if you need to make sure that the income and expenses are adequately reported, because again, this is a business, and in any business, you need to show what's going in and what's going out, so that you can take advantage of the various tax advantages that you have. Let's see. So sorry. So kind of to just reiterate or go over what we've done. First, identify your priorities. Make sure that you know what it is you're trying to accomplish by going in the charter business. You want to make sure that your boat is suitable for the local conditions, that your boat will do what you want to do, and that your boat is suitable for charter in the local market. Sorry. So, but again, it's your priority. So if your priority is that you want to use this boat as much as possible, and you want the tax advantages, and you want a little revenue, again, make sure that you go through you understand your priorities and get the boat that will be appropriate for that. I say make sure that you understand that chartering your boat will offset the expenses, but in our market in Southern California, it typically will not be a profitable thing, other than unless you factor in the tax advantages. But we just don't have the market that they do down in the BVIs, where your boat's going to go out that much. So when somebody's telling you, oh, you're going to make this, you're going to make that, it's typically not the case. It's an offset situation. There are companies that will say that we'll guarantee you X number of dollars over a certain period of time. But again, look at those very, very carefully, because that means at the end of that time, you're probably not going to be in the charter business. So if you plan on owning this boat for 10 years, and they tell you that, well, we can guarantee you X number of dollars for the next 3 years or next 4 years, then what do you do after that time? You got to sell your boat. Is it going to be worth as much as you owe on it, et cetera? So just make sure you understand where you are and what that long-term relationship looks like. A good charter company will make your boat owning experience easier. So our goal is to have happy boat owners that enjoy their boat and have the benefits of having a charter as well. But our top priority really is that we have happy boat owners, because we're partners in this deal. What we're getting of it is some revenue based on your investment. But we're super concerned that you are going to be enjoying your boat. You're going to be happy with the return on your investment. So make sure you have a good relationship. You feel super comfortable with the people that you're doing business with. I also think it's super important to maintain an active role in your business. So don't sign the papers, put the boat in charter service, and expect that everything's going to be fine and they're just going to send you a check once a month. I would say, again, promote your boat. Come down and use your boat. While you're using the boat, look at the maintenance. Look at all the issues. Make sure that you are involved in the process of owning that boat. You're in the process of that keeping everybody's feet to the fire and making sure that the boat is well maintained and is looking good and is ready to use. The last part is probably the most important part. So it's consult with professionals. So when you're buying a boat, make sure that you have your own broker. Make sure that you are using a broker that you trust. When you're looking at the tax advantage, the tax situations, make sure that you use a tax guy, Tom, for example, that can set you up correctly and make sure that your boat is appropriately documented, that it is in an LLC or whatever. But tax professionals, legal professionals, you need to make sure that all your ducks in a row, and it's not something you want to learn by watching a YouTube video. You need to learn those things from somebody that has the experience and that will make sure that you are taken care of. You want to make sure that you use a licensed surveyor. So when you're buying the boat, if you're buying a brokerage boat, make sure that your broker is going to engage a surveyor that's going to do an adequate inspection of the boat. So all these things, there are tons of people in the boating business, in the boating-related businesses and tax and law that can help you. And I always highly encourage people to make sure that you take advantage of those services. You might be able to save some money by using the same broker that's selling it as your agent. You might be able to go on LegalZoom and do your own LLC. These are just bad ideas. Like whatever you're buying is a substantial investment. Make sure that you take the time to do things correctly, to get the best people to represent you, and the best people to prevent you from making big mistakes. And lastly, in terms of hiring the right guy, make sure you use a charter company that has your interest in heart, that knows that it's a partnership, not a one-way street, and that they're going to make sure that you are well taken care of, and that your boat will be a successful part of the charter fleet. It's a great thing. I can't think of anything more fun than boating. I mean, I think it is the greatest thing. I spent my entire life on the water doing different things, raised my family out on the water. I totally encourage it. And I think that putting your boat in a charter fleet is a great way to make that a better experience and a less expensive experience. So feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any more questions. But I'd say go buy a boat.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you very much. And here is the phone number for calling Andy. And Andy, I don't know whether you were aware of it or not, but the internet was going in and out during the presentation. Okay. And I want to let everybody know who's on this webinar that the recording the sound will be perfect. So make sure you write down Andy's phone number. So if there's something that you missed, you can call him directly, and he would be glad to answer your question. I don't see any other questions coming in, so we're going to end this in the next few minutes. Is there anything else about yourself or your company, Andy, that you'd like to bring up at this time?
Well, part of what I do is run my business and run our charter fleet. I'm happy. I am a passionate boater, and I'm passionate about what I do. So if you're talking about buying a boat and doing this in San Francisco, if you're talking about doing it in LA, don't hesitate to call or email me. I'm happy to answer questions. Like, I want people to be happy, successful boaters and successful charter boat operators. So by all means, don't hesitate. I have 40 years of resources, 40 years of experience that I am excited to share, and more than happy to do it.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking your time to give everybody this free information and participating in our free webinar series. And I'm sure we'll have you back again sometime in the very near future. And if anybody who's
All right. Well,
has any questions, please email them into us directly. You've already dealt with Kelsey, so stay in communication with her. And is there anything else that you'd like to say, Andy, before we end this webinar?
go voting.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.